Hi, everybody. This is Chris again from Comic Book Spotlight. And we're once again here live. We have a very special guest. This is going to be a great comic book spotlight because we're going to talk indie comics. We're going to talk about this new comic book. It is a great comic book. I'm very, very excited to bring in the writer, the creator of this great comic book. Let's hear it for the one, the only, Parker Newman. Hey,
Hey,
good.
Chris,
How
how
you
you
doing,
doing?
Parker?
I'm great. Yeah, thank you for having me on the
It's a
show.
pleasure. And when your publishing company reached out to me, they said, we have a new writer and creator of this great comic book. And I was very, very, very excited. Um, it's called City of Demons. And I think this is going to be a great comic book. And it's crowd funded on Loop, which is a new Zoop,
Zoop,
sorry,
Zoop.
on
You
a
good?
new platform. It is exactly like Kickstarter, but it's just slightly a little different. Um, I'm sure you're a little bit nervous. You want to make sure this is a great crowdfund.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. All the pressure and anxiety that come with that are definitely
And I
present.
saw on your social media, Instagram, you got these little funny bits of video, um, like the stress of being a writer and crunching time.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I've been honestly, I kind of thought it's like, okay, I don't really want to show my face more, just let the art and the comic speak for itself. But then I was like, I thought that was the dumbest decision I could have made
Hmm.
initially because I was like, I just need to put like as much, even more so because you're in the independent comic
Right.
space. People have to are really buying into you
Yes.
as much as they are into the actual
Right.
book. And that was something I probably fully accepted too late into
Hmm.
the game, to be quite fair. And then for me, I was like, okay, I just need to put my personality out there, and a lot of my humor is that sort of self-deprecating humor. And I think people could, you know, a lot of people, especially in the comic space, to be honest, could relate to it.
Okay.
So
Uh,
and use that as a way to connect with
Absolutely.
people.
So, City of Dreams, the project,
City of
City of Demons.
Demons.
Sorry, I'm
You're
getting
good.
off pan here. City of Demons is being a 12 issue black and white Nori. Is it Nori or Nor? Noir,
Noir,
Noir
Noir.
comic
Yes, sir.
series set in the 1924 Los Angeles, published by Acre Comics. Um, I have a feeling that you already had all these 12 issues ready to go, but issue number one is on the chopping block here, basically getting ready for its big introduction.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So it's actually funny. You're good. With It's actually interesting. So our whole journey to game with Wiseacre was we were initially signed with Blood Moon
Okay.
Comics, and Blood Moon had sort of was an independent publisher who had created a sort of sizable following. They had mostly done like horror
Hmm.
titles, and headed by Keith Ramel, who's a great guy. Um, but with all the craziness with Diamond, and I'm sure this is the story with a million other independent publishers and even your LCSs. Diamond messed everything up, and so Blood Moon and the mismanagement with Diamond had been going on for
Right.
years before they eventually went bankrupt. And so when Diamond finally declared bankruptcy, Blood Moon it was just bleeding too much money and closed up shop. And then there I was with like all these finished issues and nowhere to
Hmm.
go. And then I reached out to I reached out to several influencers comic book influencers who I've been on podcasts before. I said, do you have anybody who could give me guidance on what to do
Right.
now? Because this historically, it's just a really
Yeah.
bad time. And so I messaged an influencer named K-pop, and she just gave me a list of potential publishers to reach out to, and at the top was Wiseacre. And I reached out to Wiseacre, and it was great. I connected a lot with Frederick
Mhm.
Littles, and because he's a writer, he's a creator. He knows how much passion, how much dedication it takes to make this, and he really respects the art form of
Yeah.
comics. And that's something that he could be a great
Yeah.
partner.
And I think he is.
So far,
Yeah,
he has.
I think he is a great partner because we've had several of his clients on here. Uh, we have had the Neon Ghost comic book.
Yep.
Also, I've had was it Vigilant, I believe, or Vigilant, or one or two. I forget. I'm going to have him on Sunday.
Oh,
Yeah,
Vibrant.
I'm going
Yeah.
to have him on Sunday to see how he did from his Kickstarter. He told me some things online between me and him that I'm going to have set up for Sunday live stream at 6 p.m.
Gotcha.
Pacific Standard Time. So it's good to bring guys back and find out how it feels after they've done a successful crowdfunding Kickstarter. I know you're very, very nervous and you want the best for your comic book. Uh, the drawings that you sent me are incredible. I would have to say it doesn't need color. It's great just the way it is in black and white. Uh, I think.
Yeah, our artists. Oh,
Oh.
sorry, but no, I shared out when I was initially looking for artists. Essentially was I called like auditioning, but like
Mhm.
five different artists. I gave them the same the first 5 pages issue one. It said, and same scripts. And said just show me what you bring to the table. And initially, my idea for the art style was going to be completely two toned, like hard blacks, hard whites, similar in vein to like some of the early like Sin City
Yes.
books. And I just thought, oh, that would be really cool. And then Kingsley came at it and brought is this sort of gray gradient and these clean lines, and he really brought a dynamic energy to everything. That in his background, he does like independent
Right.
superhero work, and I was like, he brought a dynamic to it that I thought was really unique to a lot of detective comics, a lot of noir comics. That I was like, this is perfect. And like he keeps doing things where it's something the script is not
Hmm.
even in the script, like the gray gradient, or even like the really edgy white border,
Hmm.
something as small as that. I saw it one time, and I said, "Oh, just do that for all the panels. Keep doing
Yeah.
it." So yeah,
Yeah.
he's been awesome.
And let's see. A few questions that I do have. is the inspiration behind City of Demons. Can you give us a little of the inspiration you did to create this comic?
Yeah, so a lot of the so I really love history. I think the history of Hollywood and like silent movie of the whole sort of formation of Hollywood becoming Hollywood, like the epicenter of American pop culture, is a very fascinating time in
Mhm.
American history. And the 1920s, right off World War One, is fascinating for racial politics, the gender politics of the time. And so I've said this to many people, but the comic and the issues it relates to Hollywood, because I believe the culture of Hollywood that has been
Yeah,
infamous with Hollywood of like the
right.
casting couch, all that sort of stuff. You're seeing it, present day with like the P Diddy trial now, the Harvey Weinstein
Right.
scandal, and all that. That culture has been in Hollywood since the beginning. Well, like since the silent movie days, it's been there for a long, long time. So the comic, though, I think because all of this has been brought to light more so now, I think relates more to sort of gender politics and like that whole sort of unveiling of evil more so today than even really
Yeah.
during 1920s. So for me, it was seeing an issue like that, knowing the history, or really taking it upon myself to learn more of the history. And then when I knew that, back in my mind, I was like, that'd be a cool saying for something. And then for me was just simply thinking about what characters could I put in this scenario, in
Mhm.
this setting, that could be just a pressure cooker. Because for me, like creatively, I love putting characters that are psychologically um, adverse to one another and just putting them in conflicts to where they constantly have to, see how they can outmaneuver the other or how they can possibly, partner with the other. It's just that's what keeps me as someone who loves
Mhm.
just stories, consuming great stories. That's someone for me that's like that could be just a fascinating way to explore a lot of these greater themes that I hope to tackle with the
Okay.
comic book
Yeah.
series. So
I think that puts it
yeah.
all in a nutshell, pretty much.
Yeah, sorry, that
No,
was
no, no,
maybe a little
no.
bit more
I
long-winded than
want
that.
you to feel like you can express yourself here, and that's what I love about having guests here is the enthusiasm. Because if a writer or creator is not enthused about what they're bringing, then it's just another comic book. And I think it's
Right.
great that when I bring guests on here, that they're very passionate, they're very strong about their work, and that's great. No, so you're
Right.
fine. I'm just trying
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
be a little comical. What are your future plans for this series?
Future plans for the series are to finish it. But my future plans, honestly, is so we're still refining a lot of the future issues. Um, and so for me, it's still like I know the ending. I know, for anyone that doesn't know, the story revolves around a serial killer targeting the head, uh, sort of officials of one of LA's top two warring crime
Mhm.
families. And so I know who the murderer is. I know the motive behind
Right.
it and everything. So it's been fascinating because I've done rewrite after rewrite getting to
Mhm.
that point. And so, like, it's even funny. Like, there was one part where my publisher may hate me for saying this, but there was a point to where
Mhm.
I had the outline finished, and I kid you not, maybe the next day after I got the letter from Wiseacre saying, "Oh, we want to publish you," I just was writing the script. I just threw the outline away. I was like, I can't be. This is not going well. It's not fleshing right, and I'm discovering more things about
Mhm.
the characters, about what I want to explore with them, and it's just been fun. And I think the spontaneity within the creative process, to a limit, is
Okay.
really really healthy. So where I
Mhm.
finish it, I just honestly my biggest goal is that I want people to really, really connect to
Mhm.
the characters. Because I believe the four central characters, which are the two private detectives, investigating the
Right.
overarching murders and the two head of the warring crime families. All these stories and subplots interconnect, and so
Yeah.
far I think really well. Um, so I just hope that they really find a way to connect with these characters because all these men are carrying personal demons with them, and the way they react to that and cope with that really influences their decisions throughout
Uh,
the story. And I just, as a reader, I love characters. So if I could just find a character or
mhm.
characters that um, I just find fascinating, and then you know, I mean, I'm a little bit biased since I wrote them, but I'm like, oh, this is cool, and so I always love writing them. I can't wait to get back
Mhm.
into their world and just
I think
explore
it's very
more.
interesting that you went back to I think it's 1940s or 1920s. Yeah, 1924.
1924.
And it was very interesting because that was a period in time where Hollywood, was starting to boom, really big, really big.
Yeah,
And I thought that was very interesting because not a lot of writers have gone way, way, way back and in that type of era. I think some people have steered away from it. Oh, I want to be more modern time,
yeah.
and because they want people to, I guess, connect more because it's modern. But I think,
As a storyteller, I think that's one of the dumbest things anyone could say because it's like for at least for me, like it's always people ask me, it's like what my it's like my what favorite
yeah,
type of movie you watch, and for me, it's like I guess technically be like thrillers, but honestly, if a story is good and the characters are good and they're people I can
hmm
get behind, I'm okay with watching or consuming any
yeah,
kind of story. I can enjoy like a movie set in Victorian England, London, as much as like Mad Max Fury Road because I
right.
can connect to it probably in different ways, but I connect to the story and it keeps me along on this journey that I can fully absorb and appreciate. So yeah, the whole idea it has to be like modern equals more relatable. I
Yeah.
just think silly. If the characters are relatable, then who gives a rip? If it's in outer
hmm
space or in feudal Japan, who
This
cares?
reminds me of a comic book. Trying to think. Writer Doug Wagner. You ever heard of him?
I
He's
don't
done
believe so.
stuff
No.
for Batman. He's done stuff for his own stuff for Plastic. It's called Plastic. It's basically a serial killer with autism, and he embraces his dark side of playing with things, and then he becomes more of a
Hmm.
not a serial killer, but a killer who was curious about things, and
Oh
he
no.
picked up this,
Yeah.
like, when he was a child, he picked up this dead bird, and he was fascinated by death, and later on, you know his, I would say, intellect or lack of, he started murdering things, and cherishing them, and I was like,
Sounds a lot like the Jeffrey Dahmer
yeah.
story, to be honest with
And
you.
Doug is a great writer, and then he just put out one called "I Am a Fashion High School Serial Killer," and basically she takes people's human skin and makes clothes out of them, and it kind of
Oh my
it,
gosh.
he's got some fascinating ideas. But I want to go to the chat real fast. Where I have a very good friend, Jay Bartlett. Evening, guys. Jay is a basically a he has a gaming YouTube channel, and he's a
Oh,
great
cool.
and talented. He's also done stuff for Nintendo Quest, and he just put one out some time ago, N64 Quest. So that's Nintendo
Okay.
64.
Jeez.
Basically, he went around and got all these, the games, and he has 30 days. He can't use the internet. Has to go to these stores. across the United States to basically build up his collection and complete it. It's interesting, and I'm glad he dropped by. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds dedicated.
But
Wow.
back to what I want another question from you, and
Hmm.
your thoughts on independent publishing, especially,
My
yeah,
thoughts on independent publishing.
especially Wiseacre. What do you think about independent publishing?
Hmm.
Because you get this big, huge mainstream. You got Marvel, you got DC,
Hmm.
you got Image, Malibu. Now, these are all great, great, great publishing
Right.
companies, but why Wiseacre? And
Wiseacre for me, so specifically, Wiseacre I thought was a company that was willing, and I really found out through this process of like becoming published by them was they're willing to take a lot of risks on people and talent that other companies were not willing to take a risk on. And but it's for me, it's like why that's important is that it's so easy, especially in this space where if you may try to make a comic independently, like not gonna lie,
yeah,
it's expensive, and so it's hard for a lot of people to get over that mental hurdle and to just go for it. And for me, initially, that was the case. And I just thought I had a really good story. I was really confident in my abilities as a storyteller. I just went for it. And I think Wiseacre was the perfect combination because Wiseacre, I mean, great. Frederick Littles himself is actually a great editor. And so his feedback has been great on, I'm sure not just my book, but many other books. And what I was encouraged by is that Frederick, specifically with Wiseacre, he has a vision. Like he's a lot of people on, especially media like unproven talent, do not have a vision. So if you do not have the perfect amount of experience, they just completely forget about you, wipe you away. Frederick was the one. He was telling me, he's like, yeah, there's many times where a career will come to me, and their initial work may not be the best, but
yeah,
there's something there. And if there's a little bit of something there, I'm willing to work on it with that person to get it
yeah,
to where it needs to be. And so it was great. And I think again with Ryan City of Demons, you really hope again as a new creator is that will people get
mhm,
it? Because like for me, like the comic is about you're solving this big sprawling
yeah,
crime mystery, but for me the heart of it is
mhm,
always the characters like and what they're going through. That's the heart of City of Demons more than the actual murder mystery, which it's fun. It keeps people guessing a lot. But Fred got it, and that was for me is like
yeah,
thank goodness. Like I cannot tell you how many times people ask me just based on the name. They didn't realize the name is a metaphor. So they asked me if, oh, so is this about demons, like the creatures? Is this about, all this stuff? And I'm like, no, it's a metaphor. It's like, which is funny because when I initially made the name, I thought it was too on the nose. I worried it was going to
yeah,
be too on the nose. I'm like, City of
yeah,
Angels, LA, City of Demons. But yeah, Frederick got it. And Wiseacre offered a ability to collaborate with other creators. Like we have a group chat, we show off
mhm,
work, give notes, and that was something that
mhm,
I love. The ability to collaborate with other people that are in your space, they get where
yeah,
you're coming from, was just has been really really fulfilling. So
yeah,
yeah. No, sorry. Back to
yeah,
independent comics as a whole. Um, the indie space, I truly believe I think you get the best stories, you get the most unique stories. Um, the big companies, the big publishers, it's gotten to the point, to be quite honest with you, that there's so much almost creative
mhm,
red tape where there
mhm,
really shouldn't need to be. And I'm not talking about
yeah,
censorship. I'm just talking about sort of like saying, hey, we can't let a character mature. We can't let a character do the X, Y, or Z because of our marketing team said this viewer base
mhm,
wants, this. Um, so there's a lack of like, I feel like when I think about comic book and the comic book medium and the art form, I think of it as a greater extension of literature. And I think you see that, like the fulfillment of what comic books could be as an art form through the independent space, um, more so than right now than
Hmm.
the mainstream space. And yeah. So I think that's the reason to go independent.
Hmm.
I think you'll get the best part, the truest interpretation of what comic books can be through
Yeah,
independent
I kind of
comics.
agree with you with big companies. They have their marketing teams, they have their people that say you can't do this, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like I'm writing a comic book myself, and it's been 2 years, almost 3 years in the making. And I was going to do 3 issues because I was told, look, you're a new comic book. Between 3 to 5 issues, people don't know you yet. So don't do a big, long series. Don't do 12 issues. Don't do 10 issues. Don't do 8 issues.
Right.
3 and 5 are safe. And I've been told that
Right.
by numerous people in the industry. Alex Sanchez, Doug Wagner, countless others I can think of that I've had on my show don't do long series because the attention span for people is very slim. And if your story doesn't go off right, then you got these 12 issues of comics that people are going to be like, oh, I got to issue 4. Eh, I'll bypass the rest of them. I'm happy through 1 through 4. So I understand
Right.
what you're saying because the big companies are going to be like, well, you're ambitious. You want 12 issues? And they're thinking in their head, money, number one. Two,
Hmm.
we're going to have to do all this advertising. Three, this guy's an
Right.
unknown. Four, we're going to have to hype him up so much that he's going to have to go on every circuit just to break even. So it's good that you did go with an independent company because I think they, like you said, they do take a chance on new people. They're not afraid to, if they do make a mistake. I'm not saying that Wiseacres makes a mistake because I've read a lot of their comics from various other writers, and so um, he's very very structured on how he does things, and I think it's going to be you're going to be fine. But it is ambitious having a 12 issue comic book series.
I took that up to naivete. I did not know. Like, for instance, no one told me initially, like, oh, yeah, maybe you shouldn't do that. So I was like, yeah, and I structured out the story, 12 issues. And so I just, it was kind of that deal where it's like, you don't
Hmm.
know what you don't know. And so I just had a thing I just wanted to do. And I knew the story was 12 issues. I thought to do it any other way because my thought process was, and again, I chucked this up to be naive before, um, was you only get to do your
Yeah.
first comic one time. And so for me, it was like, if I only do this once, I want to put everything out there. I like to put myself creatively out there to let everyone know that, like, I know what I'm doing in terms of, like, structuring a story. Let everyone know that I know how to create intriguing characters. So for me, it was I didn't see any other way, to be quite honest with you. I thought about, even just financially, should I cut down to even 10 issues? And then 10 issues, I was just like, no, the structure is just not, the flow
Hmm.
is not going to be right. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I did not. So I did not get the 3 to 5 issue
Yeah,
time, to
it's
be honest
it's
with
it's
you.
just it's just
Yeah.
because these bigger companies they wanna
Right.
micromanage you, and they want to basically say, okay, you're new. This is how we do things. If you were under, say, you got signed with DC or Marvel, they would probably say, "Oh, we need a superhero in your comic. We need something that's
Yeah.
going to tie in with,
An IP that we could, like,
yeah,
tie it to,
toys,
for the big
marketing.
existing
Could
audience.
this be a movie? Animation. So." I just
Yeah.
don't like the way the industry is going. And right now, I think independents are going
Oh yeah.
strong. And I've seen it over Kickstarter. I've seen it, people just, putting out their own money out there and putting it and making a comic book. Um, it's,
Well, it breaks my heart when I see a writer who
yeah.
writes for Marvel or DC, and I know they're great. I've read their
Hmm.
independent work. I've read some of
Yeah.
their older stuff, and it breaks my heart when I see them. I know
Yeah.
they're phenomenal writers, and you can tell when they've been pushed
Yeah.
into a corner where a corporate or someone said you have to do
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z, and you can tell. I think you can tell with every writer or comic. It's like you can tell when like they're passionate about it and
Yeah.
they're all in it, and when they're not. And you can easily tell when you write something that's, to be honest, just bad, objectively bad. You're like, oh man, they just
Yeah.
gave up.
Yeah.
It's like because they were
Yeah.
given no option. Um, it's sad. It's
Yeah.
like, oh
Just want to
gosh.
mention a few people. James Lucas. Hey guys, how you doing? He backed our last guy for Neon Ghosts, I believe.
Oh,
And
cool.
Joe Fan 84. Hello everyone. Welcome you guys. Thank you for coming. This is Parker Newman, writer and
Hey
creator
guys.
of City of Demons. And this is going to be a great comic book. I thought we'd now dive into what it looks like. I got a slide presentation, and let me just get it all set up for you.
Awesome.
Okay. Oops. Hang on. Start presentation. Percent. Yes. Now I have to go here. 1 second. Apologize. It's
You're good.
fancy, so it's like I gotta. Let me know when you see it.
All right, I see it, and looks like
Is it
it's
sharing?
okay. I see. Yes, but it still looks in. It does not look like it's in presenter mode. Yeah, you
Ye-
still have to click present, I
Yeah, I
think.
think I did put it in percent. Hang on. Uh, yeah, there we go.
Perfect.
Full screen. There we go. So let's see. This is the ground. How I explained it, it's groundbreaking indie comic book, and the reason I say groundbreaking is because I feel like you are taking a great story, bringing it back to old school Hollywood. So that's why I call it groundbreaking.
Oh,
It's
thank you. Yeah.
yeah. Um, of course, our creator and writer, Parker Newman, and you can see the time, what time we started at. And I created this awesome backdrop. I hope you're happy with the backdrop that I created
Yeah.
for this stream. I put a little foggy mist to make it a little ominous, and one of the characters from one of the detectives from your comic book,
Yeah. Detective Short, our lead character.
yeah, right in the middle of the city, like it's swallowing him up. You know. So here we are, like we said, writer and creator, City of Demons. This is the front cover of the comic book. Am I correct?
Correct.
All right. And our publisher is Wise Acre Comics. This is part one, called The Detective Short. Is that correct, Parker?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. Okay. We're going to go to the next slide. And here we go. Our illustrator, Kingsley. How do you pronounce his last name?
Kingsley Ize.
Is a. And you got your letterer, Nikki Powers.
Correct.
Now, when you got these two people for your comic book, did you extensively go out and try to find people that complement your writing style?
It was. I mean, I guess you could say compliment but for me, it was just almost like creatively just add on to it in a really nice way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just almost adds something that wasn't there in the initial script.
Yeah.
Like when I think about Kingsley, Kingsley's ad stuff like like a visual style, like a dynamic sort of energy to the panel layouts, expressiveness to the characters. Again, like the great gradient,
Mm-hmm.
not mentioned. That was not my original. I mentioned to you earlier, not my original idea for the art style. I was thinking about a
Yeah.
harsh black, harsh white, Sin City style.
Yeah.
Um, his and so yeah, I really wanted to find people that could add something that I maybe creatively just what didn't have. And I think that's where a lot of that I mentioned before, the spontaneity, a lot of the
Yeah.
creative process. I wanted that to shine through. And Nikki, same deal. I thought a lot of her work was again reminiscent of some of what the style I was going for with the lettering.
Yep.
And she was able to. She's a fast worker. She's able to quickly change on the fly. Um, and so, yeah, she's been great. Very just fantastic to work with. Same as Kingsley. Kingsley is just as committed to this campaign as I am, and
Mm-hmm.
he's phenomenal guy to work with. Super, super talented. Found both of them on social media,
Yep.
and yeah, I think the art. Anyone who is impressed by what's being shown now, this is all issue one. The
Yeah.
art gets better.
Okay.
Like it gets, I think it gets even better. The art in issue one's great. It gets
Yeah.
like phenomenal later on. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, I can't wait for people to experience it.
And Joe fan says it looks awesome. You know.
Thank
So
you. Yeah.
yeah. I think they're very, very, very excited. Now, Nikki, has she done other work besides your comic book?
Yes. Oh gosh, she's done a lot. Nikki's probably done the most out of any one of us. She's probably the most experienced.
Okay.
She was the lead letterer for Scout Comics.
Okay.
I think she still is actually. And I
Okay.
said was, but yeah, she still is.
Hmm.
So Nikki has done a bajillion, different kind of comic book work.
Hmm.
Super, probably the most experienced in the group. Kingsley had done an art collective with some friends where he
Okay.
had done, again, like sort of their own superhero comic style stuff.
Yeah.
And again, I thought his style was something that had not been really seen in a lot of detective comics, a lot of noir comics. Just thought that style
Hmm.
with my script would just be phenomenal. And so far, I think his art shows shines through. I think
Yeah.
it's really really strong. The line effects are strong.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's great. He's fast, and a lot of our scripts, my scripts to him,
Hmm.
I have to make sure to include like a million reference photos from like if I want a panel to reflect this shot or have this
Hmm.
line effect or make sure that the dress. There's a masquerade ball in a later issue. The dress
Hmm.
reflects a lot of the outfits worn at that time period.
Hmm.
Because in the period piece, you keep having to remind yourself what did X, Y, and Z look like a phone or whatever, look
Hmm.
like in that time period. So yeah,
In the right drawing, I find it very interesting how he did the three different panels with the eyeball.
right.
And I found that very interesting. I've never seen that type of style in a comic book before.
Oh, that's actually, oh, thank you. I guess, again, you don't know, you don't know. So I think I just
Hmm.
naively wrote those panels in
Yeah.
as something like, oh, that's a recurring motif
Okay.
we use throughout the comic. So you've seen it here. You're going to see it a few more times, but not too
Hmm.
much. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a recurring visual motif we have throughout the comic.
Okay.
Um, so again, it's supposed to be visually reflecting the personal demons.
Okay.
And so you had a flashback,
Yeah.
and then you're essentially zooming out of that. You see the personal demons into him now. And so you see a present state, which is
Oh.
just silence.
Okay.
And the whole idea is you're supposed to just absorb that image
Okay.
and just really, feel like, okay, so this is who he is now. And I love the facial expression on him, the line effect, how it
Yeah.
crosses his hair. It's
Yeah.
just fantastic. And he's he like Kingsley again, he gets it. And so I talked to him and we're all creatively on the same wavelength. So it's great.
Okay. Now, since you're new as a writer and thing, have you looked at other writers' styles of writing and
Yes.
how they might break down each panel in a comic book.
Right. So it's been fascinating because some writers are a lot more. It's almost like you read their scripts as like they're writing a novel almost.
Hmm.
There's a lot more writers, and I'm one of these, are just direct. It's the script is essentially a blueprint here, 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 here.
Yeah.
I'll explain why exactly, like the visual meaning behind like something like the second page here.
Hmm.
But it's very to the point because I want my artist to just know points he has to hit.
Okay.
Because again, we're going pretty fast, but
Hmm.
for me, it was as I get gone through this series. My day job is a commercial videographer,
Okay.
so that has obviously bled into a lot of the visual language of comics. But for me,
Hmm.
as I continue through this process, it was me more analyzing what can comics do as a medium that film cannot do. What can
Okay.
comics do in and of itself that is unique to it?
Yeah.
And the prime example of that, I mean, this is such a cliched answer, but is Alan Moore.
Yeah.
I read his Swamp Thing run, and his first, technically second, but his first real issue of Swamp Thing
Hmm.
um, blew my mind. Anatomy lesson.
Hmm.
It was maybe the single greatest comic book issue I think still that I've ever read, and because that was a story that could only have been told in comic book form. You could not have
Right.
replicated it in a movie or in prose or in a
Hmm.
TV show. It had to be a comic for that story to be told that way. And
Gotcha.
and for me, it was like, what way specifically? And I already kind of, without even knowing it, was already kind of doing it with the second page right there,
Hmm.
but was diving into more as like storytelling forms that we can take that is just exclusive to it because a lot of people like to think of comics like as like a film,
Yeah.
but with a single image, you have to communicate so much movement within a single image
Hmm.
that you don't get typically, like in film or whatever.
Okay.
And so it was just that learning that like new visual language, I think has been really fun. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I've hopefully thrived in it, but I'm waiting on everyone else to give their response.
Okay, so you've developed your own style of writing, basically, because your job, basically, you try to take your job that you do regularly and apply it to the comic book. Am I correct?
Initially, yes. Now that
Mm.
has been moved more and more away.
Okay.
So I probably goes back to the sorry, I got a little off track to your initial question. So I've been studying just a lot more, like actually studying. Like I always enjoy the work, but like Kirkman is
Okay.
fantastic. Um, more my writing style is nothing like his, but
Hmm.
again, examining his panel layouts has been particularly interesting.
Yeah.
I've really felt sorry, excuse me. I value a lot of Mike Mignola's stuff, so I've been reading a ton of Hellboy. For me, it was looking at the page layout, the pacing they take with the story, and how
Hmm.
they just let the moments breathe. Enternaut,
Hmm.
I'm not going to pronounce the author's name,
Yeah.
but a lot of that classic stuff has been phenomenal to read about. Honestly, another great inspiration has been Vagabond. Again, cannot go say the author's name. He's Japanese, but he wrote Slam Dunk,
Okay.
so a manga. But it, again, really analyzing how to let a single page breathe, the pacing of a story, because we only have 20 pages. How
Yeah.
do I make sure the reader at the end of this wants to pick up the next issue? How do
Right.
I make sure they get a complete experience here?
Yeah.
And so all those authors I've been just taking together, read their original scripts as much as I can gather,
Hmm.
and really seeing it's almost like the way I approach script writing is similar to the way I think if you read a lot of the Frank Miller stuff when he wrote to
Yeah.
Dave Gibbons and Watchmen, it's like a
Mhm.
conversation you're having with the artist.
Yeah.
And that is something that I've employed because it feels very personable. It
Hmm.
feels a lot more collaborative. And so it's not super flowery, but I'm writing like, hey, Kingsley, what do you think about doing this? That was also done in this. We could do
Yeah.
this, and this will tie into this. So I guess in a way that, but yeah, it's been a hybrid of a bunch of different stuff.
And the reason I ask, you developing your writing skill is because when I was researching for my comic book, I took basically one of the comic book writers, I forget his name, he had a template, basically how you can write a comic book. And I took that template and I was like, okay, I'm not going to do exactly the way he does it, but I'm going to take some points from it.
Right.
And he had like, okay, location in the beginning, where it's located, and then describing each panel of what the character is doing in each of those panels, and then dialogue. And say, for instance, like on the left side, you got room and crash. We use what we call FX,
Yeah.
sound
Same here. Yeah.
effects. So when the artist is drawing, he's like, oh, okay, he wants this particular sound effect in here, and so we're gonna write that in. And those are basically the word bubbles that you see in comic books, like when someone's punching somebody, or
Right.
uh, so. I took that kind of style, so that's why I asked the question, because every time I bring in a writer, they have a different answer. And Doug Wagner said, I'm pretty basic. I just write little notes and each of the panels, and I just explain very, very small details of what that panel is. And then
Oh, really? I write like details. I'm like, make sure to include this. Make sure to include this is here. This is yeah. So yeah.
he said you can get more done with less writing if you can. And he said all writers are different. You know, some are more detailed, some are more uh, mild. And he said for him, he even showed it online. If you subscribe to his newsletter, he actually shows his writing style, copies of his actual writing style. And I looked at it, and I was like, man, that's so simple. And I've been doing it the hard way. And he's just like, and he says I can get like 2 or 3 comics done maybe in a week and a half.
Jeez.
And it blows his mind. And I had Erica Schultz. She can do like 7 comic books in 1 week.
Dang.
And I'm like, I'm like, it's taken me how many years? I've told you have to develop the character. You got to make it, there's got to be some type of drama. There's got to
Right.
be like he's got to have some type of thing that he's going to overcome, or the character is going to overcome. And I've been told all this stuff by people in the industry. You got to develop all this style, but he says just you know each people have a different style. Just do
Right.
what makes sense to you. There is no right formula. That's what he told me. There is no right formula.
Oh, right.
So your formula might be different than my formula, and his formula might be different than all of us. But in reality, he said there is no proper formula.
Dang. Yeah.
So
That's
go ahead.
I'm sure that yeah that makes perfect sense. Like it's
Yeah,
because I was about to say you read it any comics that are
yeah,
independent, it's you feel the difference on the page. So yeah.
yeah. And let's see. In the chat, guys, I was wondering if you guys have any questions for Parker Newman. If you do, please put it in the chat and we will read it. Also, I want to let everybody know please follow the Loop website. Zoop. I said Loop. Zoop. Website is on there. It's scrolling at the bottom. Let's go into a little bit more with our presentation here. To the next page. There's some more examples. Great detail. You said it gets better as we go
Yeah.
along, and I can see it. It gets better as we go along. And you're seeing more of what is entailed with the. I don't know if, and these ones are the detectives in any of these panels.
Yeah. So I was about to say, so the first and the third are actually from a World War I flashback
Okay.
that starts book 1.
Okay.
So Detective Short, Lucas Short, is a World War I veteran.
Okay.
So the first page, spoiler, but the first one right there is the first page of issue 1, is a splash page.
Okay.
And then the second one is actually him as a detective in the LAPD.
Okay.
And a cool part of history is that actually LA hired their first black police officer. I think it was 1918, actually. And I used that cool piece of history to then influence the creation of Lucas Short, who's a black detective in 1924. So before people say that's not historically accurate, it is. But but again, his layout of the chase scene that's shown in the second panel, second page is shown right there.
Yeah.
Great. He keeps the energy going, easy to follow. The third page, just moody. You get right. It's quick, and you feel a hit without a single, sound effects for the gunshot.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone loves this, because I remember when I first got these pages coming in as a writer, I loved it. I was like, this is awesome. So
yeah. And I love that he went with a 5-panel page with him in the LAPD driving the vehicle. I thought that was really cool. We're seeing more and more with indie comics the way they do paneling, and this paneling is a lot different. You wouldn't see this paneling if it was Marvel or DC or Image. This is totally blows my mind right now what I'm seeing, because it's something that you would see to a throwback back in the day. I don't know, let's see, black and white TV, detective show.
Yeah.
That you would see back in the old days when our parents were watching, the black and white TVs, where all the family get around and they watch one show per night. And
right.
Not like what we have today, where we have 50 million different channels that you can select from, and nobody watches all those channels. So it's great that we're getting a kind of a throwback to these great detective shows, but in a comic book form.
Right. Yeah, it's
Go ahead.
Sorry. But no. But with Kingsley, again, he just, with all of this, there's a part to where he'll surprise me every single page. Yeah. And so far it's been nothing but good. So hope he stays that way. But yeah, again, for everyone, this is something that I think anyone will really connect to. The first issue is really just a character piece on Lucas. And so far, for people that read it, they've been nothing but behind the character's back. So again, I think people are really going to connect with the artwork and the story that goes with it.
Joe Fan says, I would love to give this a read. So
thank you, Joe.
He's intrigued by just the visuals we have right now. Let's go on to the next page. There we go. That's a little bit of trailer, a little sneak peek. But I'm going to play it one more time, but I'm going to give it its proper respect that it deserves. Here we go. One more time. Oh, hang on. That was not supposed to happen. I apologize. That's
There,
better.
there
That's
you
better.
go.
Every time I do a live stream, it seems something with my presentation always wants to screw up and throw me off. And then people are like, I get in the comments, they're laughing a little bit. They're like, you made a little mistake. But I just wanted to give you guys the proper respect that it deserves. Here we go. This is the Loop website.
Zoop.
Zoop.
Zoop with the
Hey,
Z. Yeah.
yeah, I even put Loop in the thing. I feel
Oh,
embarrassed.
yeah. On the back. Yeah.
It's
Gosh.
supposed to be Zoop, people, not Loop. So this is the City of Dreams Zoop website.
Demons.
City of Demons. Sorry, God, I want to
You're
say.
good.
Oh my God, get it together. When I first went to your Zoop City of Demons website, you were at, I believe it was 9 at the time. Now we're up to 1,000. Uh, it's supposed to be up to 2,000. We have 23 days left. You have 44 supporters so far. How do you feel about that?
I feel good. You have to feel positive about that, especially since Zoop is a website that a lot of people are not, initially familiar with, as well as I'm a new creator. So honestly, not nobody really knows my name, and it's a completely new IP that also no one really knows about a whole
Mm-hmm.
lot yet.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully that will change. And again, being on a podcast like yours, I think will definitely help bring more attention to this. Because again, let's hit 2000. I really want to bring this story to you guys. I think
Right.
it's one of those things where I know it's something that people will enjoy
Mm-hmm.
if they take the chance.
Mm-hmm.
And once they, get the chance to read it, I think there's no doubt in my mind that they'll want to continue the story to issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, and so on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm thinking people are wondering why only 2,000. You have 12 issues, and why aren't you asking for more to
Hmm.
support it? Because I see a lot of people on Kickstarters, they're asking for 6, 10, fifteen
Right.
thousand dollars to create one single issue.
Right. So essentially for this is that because Wise Acre Comics is new to Zoop, we're
Mm-hmm.
essentially testing the grounds out, not just for my book, but for future books. And
Okay.
so we're testing the grounds out to see, to be perfectly honest, is Zoop even like viable for us? So far for City of Demons, it's been on a good track. Hopefully we can close out 2000 soon.
Yeah.
But again, for only 2000, it's been the fact that, again, testing ground. Also, we're just right now trying to gauge or build an overall interest with issue 1. So that's the main focus.
Okay.
Not so much telling you on the rest selling the generating the production cost for the rest of the series, but
Mm-hmm.
focusing on let's build an interest because we're confident. I'm confident. Wise Air Comics is confident that once that you read issue 1 and then later issue 2, there's going to be a good word of mouth, and I really do believe that a series like this,
Mm-hmm.
the word of mouth will be very positive, and it will can carry the series in a lot of ways that I guess a lot of traditional marketing just can't. I
Yeah.
think that's the same way for a lot of media and movies, and so very confident in this.
When I looked at the Zoop website, people can't see it, but it's broken down. You got your 5, 8, 10 package. Then it goes all the way down to, I believe, 145, 170 ish. And then you even have what it's called a tip jar, where you only, if you want to put how much money you want to put into that tip jar. I felt that was different. And I never seen that. Kickstarter, you got your set goals and packages, and this is just the way it is, and boom, that's it. I think Zoop is tailoring the experience for people to do an indie comic book for the very first time. So, if they're not too sure, they could just
Right.
put so much money into your tip jar. Still helps fund your comic book. I saw a lot of people putting money in that tip jar, so that does help. But when you were developing these packages, what were you thinking as far as getting extras and to make people want to support your comic book?
And so you're asking about the rewards in terms of why to choose. Yeah. For us, it was in terms of the rewards was offering just a great variety of things to possibly pick from. Like again, the metal bookmark,
Hmm.
the stretch goals of metal posters, but just a lot of typical things that we thought had a very wide base of appeal.
Hmm.
And to be honest with you, in terms of production costs after the fact, these are
Hmm.
stuff that are quick to make and things that are not going to take all $2,000 out of our system.
Yeah.
But we again, generally, I think these are something people will really like. And again, if you're in the independent scene,
Hmm.
let's be real, you're going to go at your market is hardcore comic fans or real comic fans, and
Hmm.
so they're going to love like for this being a first issue.
Hmm.
We have a wide variety. I think we have 4 variant covers. I actually did all of those myself. So
Nice.
yeah, I do charcoal portraits and painted portraits. I'm not a comic book artist, so that's why I have Kingsley. But
Yeah.
I do a lot of that stuff that's thematically tied into the story.
Hmm.
So I did all the variant art, but yeah, it's something that again, it's for real comic book fans and people that really love this stuff will eat this stuff up. I don't know. Yeah,
No, that's good. And we'll go back to the chat real fast. And Joe Fan says, I'll check it out.
awesome.
James,
Yeah,
Lu-
please do.
James Lucas says, same, definitely. Would like to read this. So,
Awesome.
and they're real comic book fans, like myself. So, even James Lucas, who was in the chat, he came up with an idea and was like, you should do a shorts of your top 5 or top 10 new release or pre-release comic books. And I took that suggestion at heart. When my subscribers uh, say that I should do something different than all our other channels are doing,
Mhm.
I listen to my subscribers.
Right.
So, also James Lucas has showed the link.
Awesome. Thank you, James.
Yes, he is one of my moderators. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Got my back. But I like the packages because I looked at them and the metal bookmark, the metal. I guess it's almost like poster size
Cover. Yeah.
of the cover. You got the different variants of the covers you said, and when you're putting out yourself out there, and the hardcore comic book fan, they want to know what they're getting
Right.
because yes, we can go to the comic book store and pick up the issues from the mainstream, but you're going to look at it and you're going to be like, okay, what else am I getting with this? And I think with the hardcore comic fans, they want to know that you are giving them extra value for support us supporting you and
Right.
putting out this comic book. They want to feel like, okay, I'm not just getting the digital copy. I'm not just getting the hardware cover. I'm getting, if I pay this extra money, I'm getting all these little extras that's going to make it worthwhile.
Exactly. Correct.
Yeah. And some people are like, well, what about the person that just wants the issue? Well, you got it right there. The $5
Yeah.
package. You got the
Exactly.
$8 package. And if you can't spend more than, and I don't want my subscribers to take this the wrong way, but if you can't spend at least 10 or 15 bucks on a crowdfund, then what are you doing? You're not helping the creator. Um, and I don't want them to take it the wrong way because we're in hard times right now,
Right.
basically. But I can put out 20 bucks, you know. If you can go to McDonald's and get a value meal, which is probably what, 17 bucks these days for a combo?
Oh, is it? Oh gosh. I would not be
Yeah.
surprised. McDonald's price is going insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you go to In and Out, they're less. I spend probably about $9 for a combo. So if you can spend 10 bucks, You're going to get a great package. It's going to help you. They're going to get a great comic book. They're going to get these extras. So, let's see, James, also your
The Instagram
Instagram.
handle. Yeah.
There you go. It's all down below as well in our links for the channel. But thank you, James. I appreciate it. You definitely have my back. Let's see. Do I have any more on this? Nope. That is end of that. Uh, but I wanted people to get an idea of the site and for them to understand. Now I'm going to throw some questions at you that were not, you know, from the publishing company, just my ideas. Okay. Sorry, Wiseacre. I've worked with you, and I'm giving you the both sides of comic book spotlight. Okay, here's the tough question:
Okay.
if a major comic book company came to you and said,
Mhm.
"We like your comic book, but we don't want to sign you," but Amazon Prime wants to do an animated series of your comic book. What are you going to do? Are you going to stay with Wiseacre Comics? I mean, publishing
Right.
company?
Hmm.
Or are you going to jump and take this deal with a big, huge company where Amazon is throwing you out to thousands and millions and billions of people worldwide?
And so I do
Going,
not retain in this scenario. I do not retain ownership at all of City of Demons. I completely sell it. It's gone out of my
just
hands.
out of your hands. Out of your hands.
Oh gosh.
You just say goodbye.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Well,
I in that scenario, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be frank. The money would have to be exorbitantly high.
mm-hmm.
I would have to analyze if this would bring enough attention to my name to fund other projects or to do career wise what that would exactly mean for me.
Mm-hmm.
The second you say sell it completely
Mm-hmm.
in that specific scenario, oh, it'd be hard.
Okay.
I would have to be desperate enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm lucky to where financially I'm okay. I'm
Yeah.
not rich by at all, but
Oh
I'm
no.
okay. And for me, it's like that'd be hard.
Okay.
Because I know what it's like to not have a lot of money,
Yeah.
and I know how easy it is to get want to
Mm-hmm.
check. I don't know, but I want. Sorry, James is asking, would you sell it to work on another project?
Yeah.
And this is tough. Dang. Oh
Yeah.
man. Would I sell it? It would depend. It would so much depends about right like now because there's a lot of stories. I've done video work for several years
Yeah.
now. There's a
Yeah.
lot of creative stories that had to come out of me or come from me at a specific time and place. Like City Demons
Yeah.
had to come out of me now.
Yeah.
Um, golly, dude, that's a hard question.
I know.
Oh man, it
It's
would the
not.
money. I'm gonna be honest. The money would have to be right.
Yeah.
It would
Okay.
have to be exorbitant. It would have to be life changing type of money to
Mm-hmm.
where I could support my family, my
Yeah.
parents. I could do.
Yeah.
Uh, it would have to be something beyond just me to that it would affect in a positive way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my answer. It would have to be something. It would have to be such a great deal that I just could not say no.
Yeah.
Um,
Just want to say goodbye to Joe Fan. Thanks for the link. I got to run, gents. My friend and I haven't talked in a while. Called or checked out the comic book later, everyone. And then James says, here we go. I love finding these awesome creators. Thanks, Chris, and especially Parker. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. If it wasn't for Wiseacre Comics, I don't think Comic Book Spotlight would be where we're at right now. So I give it to Wiseacre Comics for bringing great talented people like yourself, Parker, to show everybody in the comic book world how talented you really are. Here's my next question. Okay. We got the hard question out of the way.
Oh,
Do you think this comic book could have a spin-off where after we know you know where the 12 issues end and you
right.
know what the ending's going to be. Do you think there is like a backstory or maybe an individual one time off comic on these particular characters?
I mean, is it possible? Like, is that like something creatively could, maybe yes, but to be honest, I don't think in those ways.
Okay.
When I think of City of Demons or any other story I have, like I have other comic book stories I would love to tell, but
Yeah.
I think of it as a complete beginning, middle, and end thing. I think I try not to get ahead of myself.
Hmm?
But honestly, like that idea has crossed my mind a few times of a potential spinoff slash sort of spiritual sequel that's kind of set in that setting, maybe with characters, not maybe with completely new characters, that sort of tie into those
Hmm.
to the events of City of Demons.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. There's a private eye character, Lawrence K, who I think I could dive into more because he's an established private detective, explore some of his mob connections in a sort of a like one issue prequel kind of deal, like a one
Hmm.
shot.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's much of a strong character arc to build a full graphic novel or series off of.
Hmm.
I mean, so yeah, it's possible. I think there are several characters. Harry Boyle, the leader of all the crime families, you could easily do a whole spinoff just on him.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it's possible. I'm not there yet. I've not even made an outline or anything like that. So it's not.
Yeah.
It's a feint of an idea. So yeah,
Yeah. The reason I asked is because a lot of people want to know, you see the origins of Superman and they want maybe even further back story. And if someone can do like a one
yeah,
off, brief, but it's, maybe a 32-page spread, it's a one off, it's
right.
done, you know.
Well, I don't know. For me, it's also like I don't want to go too far back
Hmm.
creatively with some of these characters because I think the mystery of like some of these backstories, like you hear
Yeah.
faint idea, you hear whispers of what they did before, you hear whispers of who they were before, but you're not given a concrete answer.
Hmm.
To me, feels more. It keeps the mystery alive, and it honestly is me
Hmm.
for like more fun. And I know this is not a comic book at all, but like Red Dead Redemption 2, the video game, does that
Hmm.
what I just talked about perfectly. You hear about
Hmm.
this massacre, the Blackwater massacre. You
Yeah.
don't see it. You hear sort of, whispers about it, sort of what happened, kind of conflicting stories.
Hmm.
And so it keeps the mystery up. And to me, that's fun. That's more fun than knowing exactly what happened. I feel like we've done that too much. I feel like the prime example is the Before Watchmen series for the most part, um,
Hmm.
is the exact warning of over explaining backstory. You're kind of taking the fun, the mystery out of it for a lot of those characters.
Okay. James has says, so is this the start of
So,
your world building?
maybe I haven't thought that far ahead, but maybe. If it's not going to be something like I'm not going to be in the World City Demons forever.
Yeah.
So I would maybe do a one shot. That's probably the most likely thing after the series is do a one shot.
Yeah.
I doubt I would ever do a big series on it again.
Hmm.
But never say never.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say. Never say never. I may come back to
Yeah.
branch off and do other things like from the world, but who knows?
Well, the reason I asked is because with my comic book, I got right into the story, and
Mhm.
people didn't know maybe the history of my character, David Drake. So um, I feel my thought is once my comic book comes out and I get it published, I want to do these one-offs, and I decided that I'm only going to do three characters: the main character, the detective, and his love interest, kind of in the comic book. So I felt like those could be like one-offs, and it'd get people more interested because there's the way I've written for my comic book. There is going to be a sequel,
Oh,
but it's going to have a different title.
okay.
But it's going to continue where issue 5 is going to end, and
Hmm.
I don't want to give it away, but it's to me it's exciting because I can do one project and then start a new project. And then when I'm ready to do the one-offs, people will be more interested, and they'll revisit. That's why I'm talking about one-offs. They'll revisit your 12 issue comic
Yeah.
because
Oh, that's a good point.
maybe they didn't get maybe they got in the middle of your run. So now with the one-offs, it's redirecting them back to issue number 1 through 12.
Right.
That's just an idea. I'm not telling you how
Oh,
to
yeah.
run.
That makes
Yeah,
perfect sense.
run. I just in my head it kind of makes sense. You know.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, to be honest with you, how much I criticized before Watchmen, it definitely did help people go back to Watchmen, like the original graphic novel. So,
yeah.
like Snake Eyes
Uh,
movie. Oh, hopefully better than Snake Eyes.
no, but Snake Eyes movie is horrible. Come on, they didn't even understand the origins of Snake Eyes.
It was horrible.
First of all, he never shows his face. Second of all, he wasn't. His temperament was not like that in the movie. You know, in the comic book, he never talks. So it's like you taken so much reference from Larry Hama, who created this comic book character and beloved by everybody in the comic book industry. And then a director comes along and goes, "Yeah, we're going to do it this way." And then Hasbro's like, "Go ahead, destroy it. You just destroyed your franchise. You just
Yeah.
destroyed
And
everything."
that's a cool character too. Like it's an
Oh
amazing
yeah,
character. So it's like it feels like almost like a layup
yeah,
that they just
yeah,
decide not to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a friend. It's Chad. You might want to check out his YouTube channel. He's a big GI Joe fan. Uh, it's Chad is his thing, and he was trying to get Larry Hama like I'm trying to get Larry Hama to come on Comic Book
Right.
Spotlight. It's hard to get Larry Hama because he doesn't do very much appearances. But we wanted to talk a lot about how he felt about the Snake Eyes movie, and I'm sure he's probably cringing every time he people talk about that movie. You know, it's like they're getting a bad reputation of what Snake Eyes is all about, and then they go reading the
Right.
comic book and they go, "That's nothing like Snake Eyes," you know. You know, I just hope they don't do that.
Again. Oh, they probably will.
Yeah. Stephanie came in. She says she's here to support. Never read a
Oh,
comic
Stephanie,
book.
hey.
So glad this will be my first impression. So welcome, Stephanie Wheeler. You know Stephanie?
Yeah, sort of.
Sort of. Gotcha. All said and done. Let's see what else. James, because that totally fed up. They made it him damn villain. Yes, they did. They made him. And then he's just welcomed Stephanie to the thing. Okay, my next question is: would you ever do a comic book that's controversial?
In what way?
Anyway, it could be,
Anyway.
one of your comic book characters gay or a lesbian or
Right.
something that's going to shock somebody.
Probably not. I don't know. For me, it was kind of the deal where it's like, at least this day and age, like so specifically, like you were mentioning, like a gay or you know LGBTQ character. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's particularly like controversial anymore. I think we have too many people, to be honest with you, in the comic book space trying to be controversial because I think that's
Mhm.
easy to get attention.
Yeah.
Um, like I don't know. I don't try to get. That's not something I have any interest in, to be honest with you. A lot of people, to be fair, which is honest, write smut,
Yeah.
and because that again gets attention, gets you quick eyeballs, and that's not my interest. That's not what I really am about. So
Hmm.
I don't see myself particularly doing that. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. For some people, the name alone, City of Demons, already oddly enough ruffled some feathers. So which again they didn't get was a metaphor,
Yeah.
but that's as probably as far as it's going to go. To be honest with you.
I love your answer because a lot of people would say, "Yeah, I want to do a controversial comic book. I
Yeah,
want to
see,
do
it's
this."
like why I don't care about that. I care about telling a good story. If
Yeah.
that happens for some reason to be
Mhm.
controversial,
Yeah.
oh well. But that's never my intention to go out there and, like stir the pot.
Yeah.
My intention to tell a good. I mean, it's simple. Tell a good story, make great characters,
Hmm.
connect with the audience.
Yeah.
That's not. Yeah, my goal is not to be like the trashiest thing you've ever read, and because oh
Hmm.
my gosh, it's going to get so many clicks or views or whatever. So yeah, it's not me.
Yeah. The reason I say that is because, okay, you remember the Acolytes when they came out on the Disney Channel? They did the Acolytes, right? Did you ever watch that?
Acolytes. I don't believe so. No.
Just Star Wars, and
Okay.
basically they took
Oh,
these
the
characters.
acolyte. Okay,
Hmm.
the acolyte. Sure. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and basically they took these. They made the Jedi so weak that in the first scene of Acolytes, this wannabe Sith character defeats a Jedi like that. And I'm like,
I've seen. Yeah.
I was like, Jedi's are not going to be fooled even by a Sith and be destroyed that fast. And I thought, like, the writer and then the lady wanted to bring in more, oh, well, this is about females. And I think,
Yeah.
no, stick with the story. Go and research what Star Wars is all about before you start writing. Don't put in, well, we want to do it. It's a female and they're twins, and then how they come into birth was because their mother created them from the Force. You can't create a baby from the Force. You go everything that George Lucas wrote. You're basically saying it doesn't exist.
Well, the problem is you have. It wasn't just the writers on that show, but you have a lot of people that want to tell their own story. But the problem is, and you can put this at the execs, which is honestly where most of the blame is. Um, they want these writers that want to tell their own like. So this was the example in like the Halo show. They want
Yeah,
to tell their own sci-fi story. The problem is no one's going to fund that because it does not have a pre-existing IP connected.
right.
So the only way to get that story told is to have an IP connected. And so they tell that story without considering that, hey, is this in any way a betrayal of the fans who have closely followed this story or that
Mhm.
story? So like to be honest, the writers of Star Wars, of the Acolyte, for instance, they're not fans of Star Wars. The writers of the Halo show, not fans of Halo. The writers of the Witcher show, not fans of the Witcher.
Yeah,
And I think they've gone. There's a new idea in writing that's taken effect that you can. It's bad to be a fan of something, and I theoretically I kind of get what they're talking about, which is you're not going to be ambitious enough or change enough things around, which I kind of get.
hmm,
But there's that, but then there's also people who just do not care and just do not respect the source material or the foundation
hmm,
that's been built for them. So they just
yeah.
completely, you know, destroy everything without knowing it.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
you hit it right on the nail. And I think what George Lucas was trying to do was he was trying to take different things, World War II, mythology,
yeah,
a whole bunch of things and then create his characters around that
Right.
and make a universe. But he was originally trying to make a Buck Rogers or a Flash Gordon kind of movie
Flash
and
Gordon,
made
yeah.
and they didn't want it. And the powers to be, and I mean the big companies at Fox Studio were like, no, that's never going to work. That's this whole space fantasy thing is not going to work. What happened? The people believed in the story, and what happened? Big franchise.
Right.
And George said he wasn't even trying to make it a franchise. He was just trying to make that movie happen. And people at Fox were like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're not a great director, you know, you come from this film school, you suck, you know, you're not a good writer, all these stuff. And I just feel like today we can give any writer the ability to take a franchise and, oh, I'm going to do it my way. And this is maybe not George Lucas's way, but I'm going to do it anyway. And who cares what you fans over here think? Because I'm going to destroy everything that you like about Star Wars.
Well, there's the whole deal where like now, like
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of these beloved sort of properties,
Mm-hmm.
and Star Wars has now become the chief example. Sorry, that's like a train or something out there.
Yeah.
Star Wars has become the chief example of this, where it's like the brand for Star Wars has never been lower. Like I grew up like any boy my age loving Star Wars, loving the Clone Wars TV show, growing up on the prequels.
Yeah.
Um, but like when the Acolyte, I remember this is when I first realized it. When the Acolyte was announced,
Yeah.
I saw the trailer. I didn't think the trailer, the first one, was bad. I
Mm-hmm.
just I didn't feel anything.
Yeah.
And as someone that grew up with it, I like if you told me, oh my gosh, what's a live action Star Wars TV show? Like I saw The Mandalorian, I was like, this is amazing. Like it blew my mind.
Yeah.
But ever since, I mean, this has been repeated like a million times, but since
Yeah.
the new trilogy started, most of it, not all, I think Andor's actually great. I
Yes.
think Rogue One is phenomenal.
Yes.
Those two things are actually amazing. Mandalorian, for the most part, is pretty good. Um, and the anime stuff has been pretty cool.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's been largely meant to just, oh my gosh, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So it's made me apathetic to Star Wars, which I never thought I would ever be apathetic to Star Wars.
Yeah.
So the brand, I think, is at all-time low
Mm-hmm.
in terms of just hype. But that's the problem. When you keep letting writers do that, the brand takes a hit. And I don't think for Disney in particular, they
Mm-hmm.
didn't respect that fans had a set standard.
Yeah.
And if you don't meet that, I mean, it's going to affect sales. So I think they really thought that we slapped the name Star Wars on it. It'll
Mm-hmm.
sell like, hotcakes. It'll sell like hotcakes. It'll just be, we just slap it on anything. It will sell like crazy. And that's obviously not the case.
Yeah.
I think going back to the brand, even like it's affected the video game side of it, where like there was that game Outlaws.
Yeah.
Did not, I don't think it bombed, but it didn't do particularly well, especially
No.
if you had Star Wars attached to it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what happens. You bring in people who don't care, who just want
Yeah.
to do their own thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason I even go further is I watched Brave New World Marvel
Oh,
movie, and I looked at it and I was like, "What are you
yeah.
guys doing?" I had to watch it three
Yeah.
times because I fell asleep. I'm watching the movie and it made me fall asleep, and I'm looking at Harrison Ford and I go, "Why did you do this movie?" First of all, the general that was in the last two Hulk movies looks nothing like Harrison Ford. Okay. Why didn't you go back to the original actor? And I feel like Harrison Ford,
Oh, the original actor died.
oh, he died.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that's why
I
they had to
did
make
not
that.
know that. Sorry. But I was saying, why didn't you go back? And I just felt like Harrison Ford was not meant for this role. Wasn't.
Right.
And it gave nothing credence to what they're trying to do with the new Captain America character. You know, with
I
Sam
think
Winston.
well, yeah. The thing is, I think Anthony Mackie is a good actor. I think
Hmm.
he's really likable, a lot of charisma. The
Yeah.
character. So my issue isn't with him. The character Sam Wilson is not interesting. He's a great side character. He's likable. He's a likable enough character. He's
Hmm.
not interesting. Like
Hmm.
there's nothing to me that it's not. There's not a lot of umph to him. Like
Hmm.
honestly, I feel that with Winter Soldier, there's a lot of you could dive into.
Yeah.
Um, it's just that, but also I have to mention with the new Captain America movie,
Yeah.
it tries to do quickly deliver exposition with these news stories, news channel
Yeah.
stories,
Yeah.
and it's horrible. It's forced. It's so like it's just bad. It feels like just a slop together something from a rewrite or from a reshoot,
Hmm.
and it is just. I mean, it's rough.
Yeah.
I watched it with one of my friends, and to be honest, you sit back, turn your mind off. You're like, I kind of enjoy this, and you think about it for
Hmm.
like 2 seconds, and it just falls apart piece by piece. It's like, oh no,
They
yeah.
were just piecing things together. I didn't even get the
Oh,
idea.
it's held together by duct tape. I mean,
I
like,
know. I didn't even
yeah.
get the idea of the female security for the president trying to bring her in from the red room and say that
Oh,
she
I
was
forgot that was even a character. I forgot about that.
yeah, that she was an actual former Black Widow. And I was like, what are you guys trying to do? What are you trying to tie in?
Yeah,
I mean, that would have made more sense if when Black Widow movie would have came out. That would probably have made more sense. Okay,
right.
former Black Widow agent. But let's see. James put it in there. Our good friend. There it is. There's a link to It's Chad. So, what else he say? Exactly. He's just not interested. I don't even want to see it. Yeah, referring to Brave New World. So, back to you. This is your time. Enough of my little rants. Here's another good question. Your comic book, City of Demons, how how would you compare it to, like, say, The Crow or other types of the genre that your comic book? Well, Crow's not exactly your genre, but the black
I
and
kind of see what
white.
you're saying. Yeah. um, it probably has more honestly more in common with like not exactly, but more in common with a lot of the early Frank Miller stuff, like for Daredevil. There's
Mhm.
not a running monologue in this comic series, except when
Okay.
I cheat. so like for instance, like I kind of hate running monologues in noir movies.
Mhm.
Sorry, but so I hate running monologues. So I was like, I'm not doing that. Just not doing it.
Yeah.
And then except there was one time where one of the private eyes, investigates a crime scene.
Mhm.
And I was like, I don't think it'd be natural for him to just be talking out loud about every little analyzing each piece. So
Mhm.
I cheated and had the, narration be like pieces of, his journal where he would take notes.
Right.
So that's kind of me cheating there. Um,
Okay.
but for me, it was like, it's mostly akin to the early Daredevil Frank Miller stuff. But how's it compare? It would, it's interesting you mentioned the Crow. It has a similar theme of like grief. A lot of the killer characters are dealing in some ways with grief and
Mhm.
analyzing the ways they cope with that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know how the way the Crow coped with, or maybe did cope with grief, and so for me, it's a part where you're taking characters who are in a psychologically very complex, maybe even a little bit unstable place, and forcing them into a corner to where they have to face that head on and
Mhm.
force them to put in conflicts. I think there's some stories hate conflict. Maybe they get too uncomfortable, but you have to consistently create conflict because that's what I mean. That's a source that a lot of great drama, is from. So yeah, I think it relates in terms of it's very character centric and taking intense look at some psychologically complex characters.
Okay. And I think this is going to be a great comic book. I think I'm going to definitely want to fund you. I definitely want to put
Thank
my,
you.
you know, money in there as well. I think all my subscribers should go and check out your fundraising campaign for City of Demons. It is a great comic book. If you like the old style detective, you know, comic book feel that you were talking about, like Frank Miller and all these great authors, even like The Walking Dead, I would
Yeah,
kind of put that in that genre. This is going to be good because I feel like with the flashbacks and then them looking themselves, the demon inside them, or that's what you said, right? The
yeah,
demon they're looking in. I think visually, when it's on the page, it's a total different comic book feel, and I think people are gonna be pleasantly surprised because I feel like we need something new, not
right,
just cookie cutter. We've had Batman over the years. We had Superman. We have Aquaman. They're revamping Storm and making her different.
right.
And my friends over at Black Comic Lords have their writer on. I think it's every Friday night, and he talks about each issue that's coming out, and he's got a lot of flack because he made Storm not the way Chris Claremont had made Storm in the
Mm,
past. And he's getting a lot of flack. And oh, well, you changed my Storm and she's different now. Well, no, he's going more in depth into her character than someone's ever has in the
right.
history of X-Men when you're doing a standalone character like Storm. So go out and get this comic book, support it, show Parker Newman that you love his comic book, you want to support it so he can get those 12 issues out. This is a big start for you. I am so glad that you came on Comic Book Spotlight. I'm going to give you the spotlight right now. So
Thank you.
uh, hang on one second. It's all yours. Go for it.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you guys. So yeah, City of Demons is a murder mystery where a serial killer is targeting the head mafia officials of one of LA's top two warring crime families, and two private detectives are on the case to solve it. And through that, you find out a lot more of the dark secrets of old Hollywood, and you really get to explore how Hollywood became Hollywood, like the epicenter of American pop culture. And again, this is a story that I think if you read it, you'll really, really like it. I'm completely confident in that. And I believe that a lot of people who, like just generally just like great storytelling, like a lot of conflict, like really complex character pieces, will really find a home here. And James Lucas, Parker, are you influenced by Raymond Chandler and or Maltese Falcon? My my answer is actually no. With a dash of Punisher. Um, so that really comes down. So Maltese Falcon, no. A lot of more of my inspiration, I think, oddly enough, comes from a lot of more comics like The Walking Dead, just because I see that not as a zombie comic, but as like a comic that really focuses heavily on its characters and the relationship of the characters with each other.
Yeah.
So that's where I see a lot of the relation to. I see a lot of relation to Vagabond. Um, but the weird thing is with a lot of this, I don't find the relation to a lot of noir media pieces. And I mean, like stylistically, yes, but in terms of the actual story, maybe more neo noir stuff like Collateral or True Detective is, I think, the obvious one. But with a dash of Punisher. But maybe later you have to find out to see exactly what I'm talking about.
So, where they can reach out to you, Parker, if we have any questions or concerns with your crowdfunding.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, please reach out. Typically, I'll be pretty much active all the time on Instagram, City of Demons _comic. And also, please, I know Chris just mentioned it, but please click the Zoop link in the chat, also shown at the bottom of the screen. We really would like to get to 2,000 to share this story with you and everyone who's also passionate about comics. So please go support. Independent comics need all the support they can possibly get.
Yeah, and I agree. And thank you very much for being on our show. Hope you can stick around for our outro. And
Yeah.
here we go.
In the glow of a desk glass light, heroes are born in the dead of night. Inkers trace dreams with a steady hand. Writers weave worlds where legends stand. Comic book spotlight shining bright, revealing creators who give us life. From pencils to panels, their magic glows. Behind the capes and suits we know, editors shaping the chaos within, guiding the arcs where battles begin. Artists giving life to explosive fights, creating the cosmos in paper's white.